Good morning, students. We'll continue with the topic on the topic photosynthesis in higher plants with a continuation of the chapter, where this is the fourth period of the fourth class of the topic. Here, yesterday we have seen the early experiments conducted by different scientists, where they showed by performing the experiments, demonstrated some of the experiment to show that how carbon dioxide is essential for the photosynthesis, requirement of those components in the process of photosynthesis, how carbon dioxide is required, how water is being released, and the presence of light, why light is necessary for photosynthesis and chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis. So all those scientists, Joseph Priestley, Van Niel, then Julius von Sachs, and even the Egelman, who conducted different experiments on photosynthesis, demonstrated through those processes, showed the importance of the components carbon dioxide and water all together work for the process of photosynthesis, where they release the carbohydrate, there is synthesis of carbohydrate. So apart from that, just a glance on the structure of a chloroplast. Already we have learned the structure of the chloroplast, but for this topic there are two reactions. In the process of photosynthesis, there are two reactions. One is known as the light reaction, and the other one is the dark reaction. So this light reaction was proposed by F.F. Blackman. It was proposed by Blackman. So we'll go with the definition. What is the definition of this light reaction? It is a light dependent reaction occurring in the grana of the chloroplast, where synthesis of two assimilatory powers occurs, that is ATP and NADPH. So what is the definition of light reaction? It is a light dependent reaction occurring in grana of chloroplast, resulting in synthesis of ATP and NADPH2. So this reaction was being studied by Blackman. He stated that it is a light dependent reaction which occurs in the grana of the chloroplast, where there is synthesis of two assimilatory powers, the two important energy components, that is ATP and NADP. So once again, look to the definition. Here it is a light dependent reaction occurring in the grana of the chloroplast, resulting in the synthesis of ATP and NADPH. So this is an expanded structure of the grana, where the grana are made up of thylakoids. Each grana is made up of thylakoids, where you can see they are placed one above the other like a pile of coins. If you take each of this thylakoid, each of the thylakoid has a thylakoid membrane and a space. That space is known as the lumen. So in the thylakoid membrane, there are four photosynthetic complexes. Those complexes are photosystem 2, cytochrome BF complex, blastoquinone, blastocyanin, photosystem 1 and ATP synthetase. So in the membrane, if you recollect the fluid mosaic model proposed by Singer and Nicholson, same model is being observed, or the same structure can also be seen in the thylakoid membrane with the lipids and the proteins. Here the four complexes are the protein complexes present in the membrane of the thylakoid, which are mainly meant for the process of photosynthesis. So the membrane have the four complexes and those are photosystem 2. So just recollect the membrane. There is a head region and a tail region. That is the hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tail. In that the protein complexes are embedded in the membrane. So there are four important complexes. Those are photosystem 2, cytochrome BF complex, photosystem 1 and the ATP synthetase molecule. These four complexes are embedded in the thylakoid membrane. So this membrane, when it is expanded or when it is being observed under the electron microscope, you can see these four complexes, and in the grana there are photosynthetic pigments. So in this photosynthetic pigments they absorb the light energy, and that light energy is used in the synthesis of ATP and NADPH2. So here in the light reaction that is occurring in the grana where light is being absorbed, as the light is being absorbed and the two important components are being synthesized, this reaction is called as the light reaction, which is occurring in the grana of the chloroplast. So just look into this figure so that you will get clear idea of the complexes that are present. So this is the thylakoid membrane. The thylakoid membranes are embedded in the thylakoid membrane consists the complexes which are embedded in the lipid bilayer. In this there are two systems which are known as photosystem, that is photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. So what actually happens in the light reactions? So in the membrane there are photosynthetic units called as the quantosomes. These quantosomes have around 230 to 250 pigment molecules along with chlorophyll and necessary pigments which are mainly involved in the process of photosynthesis. So here the main molecule is a chlorophyll molecule. This chlorophyll molecule gets the light, get illuminated by the light and emit the electrons. So in the light reactions we will see some of the basic processes that are involved in the process of light reaction. That is the first reaction, the processes. What are the processes involved in the light reaction? That is photo excitation of chlorophyll lysis of water and photophosphorylation. There are three main processes, the basic processes that are involved in the process of light reaction is photoexcitation of chlorophyll molecules, photolysis of water and photophosphorylation. We will try to understand the basic process, then we will go to the main part of the process of photosynthesis. So as I said that the membrane has the complexes, that is photosystem. In that the main complexes is photosystem 2 and photosystem 1. So in this three processes we will just see that how there is photoexcitation of the chlorophyll molecules. So there are three main processes involved in the light reactions: photoexcitation of chlorophyll molecules, photolysis of water and photophosphorylation. But first we will try to know the photosystems, that is photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. So what is photosystem? As I said, the contosomes are the photosynthetic units present in the thylakoid membrane. These contosomes have around 230 to 250 photosynthetic membranes. So in the contosomes there are the chlorophyll molecules are being arranged. When the light falls on these, when they are illuminated, when the light falls on the thylakoid membrane, the photosynthetic pigments get illuminated and start to release the electrons. The electrons move from one pigment molecule to the other pigment molecule. And lastly, all the electrons reach to a common center, and this is called as reaction center. There is a common center which is known as reaction center. So in the thylakoid, the pigment molecules are present, the contosomes are present which contain the pigment molecules. Yes, if this absorbs the wavelength of light of 700 nm, this reaction center is said to be as P700. Yes, photosynthetic unit which absorbs the wavelength of light of 700 nm. So here there are two reaction centers, that is the photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. So what actually happens is, when the light falls on the photosynthetic pigments, that is the main is chlorophyll A, it is associated with the other accessory pigments chlorophyll B, xanthophylls and carotenoids, and these together form light harvesting complex. It forms a complex where the light is being absorbed and they form with the illumination or with the emission or with the release of electrons, and this complex formed by the pigment molecules is known as light harvesting complex. So when light falls on the pigment molecules, they get photo-excited and start to emit the electrons. And these electrons move from one pigment molecule to another pigment molecule and ultimately reach the common center, and that common center is called as reaction center or the photosystems. So we can say the photosystems are the functional and structural units of protein complexes which are involved in the synthesis of, they are involved in the photosynthetic synthesis of they are involved in photosynthesis which are present in the thylakoid membrane. So what are photosystems? They are the structural and the functional unit of protein complexes involved in photosynthesis present in the thylakoid membrane. So there are two photosystems based on the discovery. They are known as photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. With the differences, we will try to know what are the characteristic features of photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. So, with the differences of photosystem 1 and photosystem 2, we will try to understand the features also and the differences between the photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. So usually it is indicated as photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. So I'll repeat the meaning of photosystems. So these are the structural and functional units of protein complexes involved in the photosynthesis that are present in the thylakoid membrane. Yes, so with this definition, or we will try to understand the features of the photosystem with the differences. And here the photosystem is, the location is, they are located on the outer surface of thylakoid membrane. As I had shown the figure of that, if possible, I'll draw it once again. Yes, so this is the photosystem 2, plastoquinone, cytochrome BF complex, and photosystem 1. So in the thylakoid membrane. So usually the photosystem 1 is usually present on the outer surface of the thylakoid membrane, and photosystem 2, it is located inner surface of the thylakoid membrane. It is present present. The photosystem 1 is present on the outer surface of the thylakoid membrane, while photosystem 2 is present on the inner surface of the thylakoid membrane, and it is activated by longer wavelength of light, while photosystem 2 it is activated by shorter wavelength of light. Yes, so photosystem 1 get activated by longer wavelength of light, and it is activated by shorter wavelength of light. Then if you go to the next point, the reaction center is P700. In photosystem 2, reaction center is P680, which means that the pigment molecules that are present in this reaction center, they absorb the wavelength of light of 700 nm, and the pigment molecules that are present in photosystem 2 absorb the wavelength of light of 680 nm. So now you have the idea that in the thylakoid membrane, these protein complexes that are present are photosystems, are in the form of complexes. They are photosystems 1 and 2, along with blastoquinone, blastocyanine, cytochrome BF complex, and ATP synthetase. So let us go with the other differences to find out what is the features of photosystems. So here the reaction center is P700, here and in photosystem 2 the reaction center is P680. Yes, here it functions independently. It functions independently without the involvement. There are some reactions that is done only by photosystem 1. So it functions independently without photosystem 2. It is photosystem 2, but it functions always along with photosystem 1. It cannot function independently, always depend on photosystem 1. So when we go for the further processes, you will come to know what exactly the meaning or what are the features of these photosystems. So they function independently and they are without the photosystem 2. It can function the reaction where there is synthesis of ATP molecules, but photosystem 2 is always associated with the functions of, it coordinates with the photosystem 1 for the synthesis of ATP and NADPH2. And here in photosystem there are more chlorophyll A molecules and less chlorophyll B molecules. And the opposite in photosystem 2 is there are more chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B molecules and less chlorophyll A molecules. So in this photosystem there are more number of chlorophyll involved in the process of. There is a process called as photolysis of water, where there is splitting of water molecules. During that process, oxygen is being evolved. But in photosystem 1, this system is not involved in the process of photosynthesis. So it is not involved. In the process of photolysis of water, while it is involved in photolysis of water, then no oxygen is evolved and it evolves the molecular oxygen, and usually this system is involved in both. It is involved in both cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation, and here it is involved only in non-cyclic photophosphorylation. The differences are mentioned in the notes, in the printed notes, and usually there are two reactions in photosynthesis. One is cyclic and other is non-cyclic. This photosystem 1 is involving both that is in the both forms of phosphorylation. It is involving both the cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation, while photosystem 2 is involved only in non-cyclic photophosphorylation. And if you go with the size or the matter, usually the photosystem 1 are smaller. They are smaller, while the photosystem 2 are larger in size. So here, what are the photosystems? These are the structural and functional photosynthetic units that are involved in the process of photosynthesis. They are the protein complexes present in the thylakoid membrane. So if you go with the characteristic features, they are located on the outer surface of thylakoid membrane. They are activated by longer wavelength of light, where the reaction center is P700. That means they absorb the wavelength of light of 700 nm, and these function independently without the involvement of photosystem 2. Yes, and it contains more amount of chlorophyll, A molecules, and less number of chlorophyll, B molecules. Why? It is involved in the, it is not involved. There is no photolysis of water, that is splitting of water molecules. As there is no photolysis of water, there is no release of oxygen. It does not release the oxygen, while it is involved in both cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So here the other complex is photosystem 2, based on the discovery which was discovered first and discovered later. So here the photosystem 2 was discovered later, where it is present in the inner surface of the thylakoid membrane. It is activated by shorter wavelength of light. It absorbs shorter wavelength of light, where the reaction center is P680, which absorbs the wavelength of light of 680, and it is associated always with photosystem 1. It cannot function independently. It have to be dependent on photosystem 1, where it contains more amount of chlorophyll B molecules and less amount of chlorophyll A molecules. This is the first process of the light reaction, where there is splitting of water molecules. It is involved. This process involved in the process of photolysis of water. The system involves in the process of photolysis of water, when it leads to the evolution of oxygen. So photosystem 2 helps in the evolution of molecular oxygen, and usually it is only in the non-cyclic process. Only in the non-cyclic process the photosystem 2 is being involved. So these are the two photosystems that are involved in the process of photosynthesis. So here next component will go with the main features or the main topic of the photosynthesis, that is the light reaction. So already I have said you the definition of light reaction. So what is light reaction? The light reaction, as it was proposed by F.F. Blackman, it is a light-dependent reaction occurring in the grana of the chloroplast with the synthesis of two essential powers ATP and NADP. And I have said that there are three main processes that are involved in light reaction. First is photoexcitation of chlorophyll molecules. So what is photoexcitation of chlorophyll molecules? So there is a reaction center where there are other pigment molecules, yes, and they form a complex known as the light harvesting complex. So these chlorophyll A with other pigment molecules form a complex, absorb the light, get illuminated in the presence of light. So when the light falls on these pigments, they get photo excited and start to emit the electrons. Yes, so these electrons are passed from one molecule to another molecule. Ultimately, it reaches to the reaction center and the electron reaches to the primary electron acceptor. Then the electrons are being passed to the primary electron acceptor, and this process is called as photoexcitation of chlorophyll molecules. There is release of electrons. They get photoexcited, start to release the electrons. As the electrons are being released, they emit the electrons or transfer the electron from one molecule to another molecule, and ultimately the electron reach to a primary electron acceptor, which is present in the thylakoid membrane. So this process is known as photoexcitation of chlorophyll molecules. The second process is photolysis of water, which is the first step in the process of photosynthesis, where the light splits the water molecules. There is splitting of water molecules where the water molecules get split or broken up to release the electrons, protons and the oxygen, the molecule of oxygen. So here the water molecules get illuminated in the presence of chlorophyll molecule. They get illuminated in the presence of chlorophyll molecules to release two oxygen molecule. We can 4 electrons, 4 protons and a molecular oxygen. So this process where the water molecules get emulated and there is splitting of water molecules, that is photolysis. Splitting of water molecules occurs where the water in the presence of chlorophyll molecule get illuminated. They get illuminated and there is splitting of water molecules where they split to form molecular oxygen with 4 protons and 4 electrons. In this electron is absorbed by an unknown compound. Z. It is present in the thylakoid membrane itself. It is absorbed by an unknown compound Z, while the protons are used for the synthesis of NADPH2+ in the further reactions. So this process was being learned by Robert Hill. So it was the contribution of the scientist known as Robert Hill. So this reaction is also called as the Hill's reaction, where he said that there is illumination when the water molecules get light or illuminated by the light. They split into protons, electrons with the release of molecular oxygen. So a molecule of water splits. When they split, they form the protons, electrons and the water, and this electron is absorbed by an unknown compound called as Z, while the protons, the hydrogen ions, are being used in the synthesis of NADPH2. This is the first step in the process of photosynthesis, that is splitting of water molecules, also known as photolysis of water. Then the third process is photophosphorylation. There is a third process known as photophosphorylation. So commonly meaning of phosphorylation is if adenosine diphosphate combines with inorganic phosphate, it forms adenosine triphosphate. Yes, this is a common step of phosphorylation where adenosine diphosphate combines with inorganic phosphate to form the currency molecule or energy component, that is ATP. And in this process, if it is occurring in the presence of light, that is ADP when combines with inorganic phosphate in the presence of light, then the process is known as photophosphorylation. That is, there is synthesis of ATP molecules in the presence phosphorylation. Where there is synthesis of ATP. So I will repeat what is photophosphorylation. It is a process of synthesis of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, in the presence of light. So this process is known as photophosphorylation. So in the light reactions, these are the three. That is photoexcitation of chlorophyll molecules, that is photolysis of chlorophyll molecules, or photolysis of water molecules, then photophosphorylation. Just we will recollect the processes once again. What happens in this photoexcitation? There is the light harvesting complexes with the pigment molecules. When they are illuminated by the light, or when the light falls on those pigments, they get illuminated or they can get charged and start emitting the electrons. All the electrons are passed or transferred from one molecule to another molecule and reach to the common reaction center. So this common reaction center can be P700 or P680. And ultimately, all the electrons are passed to the common primary electron acceptor. That primary electron acceptor passes the electrons to the next component of the thylakoid membrane. It can be photosystem 1 or photosystem 2 or any other component in the membrane, plastophenol, or this energy can also be used for the synthesis of ATP molecules. So in the presence of light, there is synthesis of ATP molecules. This process is known as photoexcitation of chlorophyll molecules. Second process, as I said, it is photolysis of water. In that, when water molecules get illuminated, they split to form 4 hydrogen ions, that is the protons, electrons with the molecular oxygen. In that, the electrons are being absorbed by an unknown compound Z, that is in the thylakoid membrane, and the protons is used by the photosystem 2 for the synthesis of NADPH2. And the third process is the photophosphorylation. In this photophosphorylation, as there is synthesis of ATP molecules, there is synthesis of ATP molecules in the presence of light, where adenosine diphosphate combines with inorganic phosphate to form ATP. So this process is called as photophosphorylation. And in this photophosphorylation, there are 2 important cycles. One is cyclic photophosphorylation and the other is non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So the first, we will go with the simple one, that is cyclic. Photophosphorylation, there is synthesis of ATP molecules, where ADP molecules, when it combines with inorganic phosphate, it forms the ATP molecules. So synthesis of ATP molecules is done by the photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. So based on what type of or which system is involved in the process of photosynthesis and the movement of the electrons in the system of photosynthesis by the photosystem 1, there are 2 important phosphorylation. So there are 2 types of phosphorylation. So the types of phosphorylation are cyclic phosphorylation ATP molecules. In the next class, we will go with the cycles with the processes of formation of ATP and NADP by cyclic and non-cyclic photosynthesis. So in this chapter, in this section of the class, the definition is that what is light reaction, what is light reaction, what is photolysis of water, what are photosystems. So what are the questions is that the questions of today's class is what is light reaction, what is photolysis of water, then what is phosphorylation, each with 1 mark. Then differentiate photosystem 1 and photosystem 2, either for 2 or 3 months. Yes, of this period I am saying of today's class, we have learnt that the light reaction. What is light reaction? What is light reaction? It is a light dependent reaction occurring in the grana of the chloroplast, which is involved resulting in the synthesis of two asymmetric powers ATP and NADPH2. Then what is photolysis of water? Splitting of water molecules into protons, electrons and molecular oxygen is known as photolysis of water. What is photophosphorylation? Synthesis of ATP molecules in the presence of light, where adenosine diphosphate combines with inorganic phosphate to form adenosine triphosphate. This process occurs in the presence of light, so that it is known as photophosphorylation. Already we have gone with the differences between photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. So these are the questions of today's class. In the yesterday's class already had said that you have to go through the scientists and their contributions, in what way they have demonstrated in the field of photosynthesis. Earlier to that, the structure of the chloroplast, which is a 5 marks questions, the definition of a photosynthesis of the first period of the class, that is, it is a 2 marks question with the equation. So in the next class we will see how cyclic and non-cyclic process of photosynthesis help in the synthesis of or formation of ATP and NADP. You can just go through the figures of the textbooks, that is the cycles that have been mentioned in the textbook, NCERT textbook. So in the light reactions, along with that, what is photoexcitation of water, photoexcitation of chlorophyll molecules, photolysis of water and photophosphorylation are the 3 main processes. We will first go with cyclic, then followed by non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So we'll continue in the next class with cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Thank you.